The New York Times, ignoring the iceberg ahead. The Times, long a bastion of journalistic excellence, now finds itself navigating treacherous waters in an era marked by unprecedented political polarization. In a landscape where one major party, the Republicans, has veered toward authoritarianism, the Times leadership appears dangerously out of touch. By treating these times as normal and adhering to outdated notions of journalistic neutrality, the Times risks sinking like the Titanic, unable to see the iceberg ahead. The historical parallel. The Frankfurter Zeitung, established in 1856, was a highly respected liberal newspaper in Germany. It maintained a critical stance against the rising Nazi movement during the Weimar Republic. However, after the Nazis seized power in 1933, the newspaper faced relentless pressure and censorship. Despite its attempts to balance appeasement and integrity, it gradually lost credibility and readership trust, ultimately being shut down by the regime in 1943. The New York Times, the Titanic of modern media. Imagine the New York Times as the Titanic, a grand and seemingly unsinkable ship. The newspaper's leadership and editorial team, confident in their course, are sailing forward as if the seas are calm and the skies clear. Meanwhile, passengers, its readers and critics, can see the iceberg of authoritarianism looming ahead. This iceberg, much like the one that sank the Titanic, is a clear and present danger that the Times seems oblivious to. False equivalence and both siding, the iceberg in the mist. The New York Times' most critical error is its insistence on false equivalence and both siding in its reporting. In an era where the Republican Party has largely abandoned democratic norms in favor of authoritarian tactics, the Times continues to treat political developments as business as usual. This approach is not just outdated, it's dangerous. By failing to call out the existential threats to democracy explicitly, the Times undermines its role as a guardian of the public trust. The arrogance of the Times leadership is reminiscent of the Titanic's crew, who believed their ship was unsinkable. Recent defensive comments from the Times editor underscore this arrogance. When challenged about the paper's stance on democracy, he asserted that taking a side is not the role of the New York Times. Instead, he insisted that the paper's job is to report and let the people decide. This stance ignores the reality that reporting without context or critique in times of crisis is a disservice to the public and can aid authoritarian agendas. The recent revelations about New York Times journalist Maggie Haberman further highlight the Times' flawed approach. It has been revealed that Haberman, in exchange for access, essentially served as a stenographer for Trump, writing articles that parroted his propaganda. This practice not only undermines journalistic integrity, but also contributes to the erosion of public trust. In times when objective truth is under assault, such compromises are akin to the Titanic's crew ignoring iceberg warnings. The broader issue at play is the ownership structure of mainstream media outlets. Like many others, the New York Times is owned by wealthy individuals who prioritize profits and tax cuts over the nation's well-being. This profit-driven model inherently conflicts with the mission of journalism, which is to serve the public interest. Selfish motives often trump altruistic ones, leading to decisions that prioritize access, ad revenue, and shareholder returns over honest, courageous reporting. The New York Times stands at a critical juncture. To avoid the fate of the Frankfurter Zeitung, it must recognize the extraordinary times we are living in and adjust its course accordingly. Upholding journalistic standards without yielding to false equivalence and political pressures is essential. The iceberg is visible to many. The challenge is whether the New York Times can steer away in time or face a similar tragic end. The Titanic's lesson is clear. Recognize the danger and change course before it's too late. The legacy of rigorous journalism and public trust depends on this crucial course correction. Personally, I see full speed ahead and lifeboats in their future.